Sweet, fruity aromas of peach, citrus oil, apple, and honey paired with crisp, bubbly, sparkling wine in a clean champagne flute are the reasons for Veuve Clicquot's unique and iconic tasting champagne. The non-vintage yellow label Brut Veuve Clicquot bottles are the world's favourite bottle of the Veuve Clicquot champagne collection to drink. In fact, in 2012, Veuve Clicquot was the second highest selling brand of champagne in the world. It is understood that many high-income households store a few bottles of this luxury good ready to pull out for a celebratory occasion or simply for a feel-good night in. This highly praised champagne house is one of the world's largest and is based in Reims in the Champagne region. Veuve Clicquot translates to Widow Clicquot, which was the nickname given to the female widow who owned the first ever champagne house. This is now, of course, the widely known House of Veuve Clicquot. But its reasons for such popularity are the taste, the established brand through a successful marketing campaign, and its price point. It was the first producer of rosé champagne, as well as the first ever house to sell vintage champagne. The company was founded over 200 years ago in 1772 and rapidly rose to popularity that has carried on throughout the generations. But what are the economics behind this world-renowned bubbly empire? The non-vintage Brut Veuve Clicquot classic bottles has had a consistent amount of quantity demanded each year because of its exceptional taste, marketing and pricing. Throughout the generations, Veuve has managed to advertise itself as a timeless drink to many different age demographics, as well as maintaining a distinct branding of packaging and media displays. By good word through many generations and families, Veuve Clicquot has earned itself a good reputation for its exceptional tasting drink. It has guaranteed a continuance of habitual behaviour, not only with the older age demographic, but also the familiarity will carry down to the name to their children, the younger generation. Veuve has recently started a new marketing target specifically of millennial women in saying that they can drink champagne more often than just for those special occasions. Women typically drink less alcohol than men because of lacking alcohol enzymes in their body, whereas men have more. This means young millennial women feel they should save a bottle of Veuve only for the special occasion. Veuve Clicquot's new influential marketing plan looks to advertise that women can raise a glass of bubbles to more than just a New Year's celebration or a promotion, but while simply entertaining. During the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody has been stuck at home with not much to do. If we were in a typical year, most people would be spending disposable income on luxury activities such as travelling, dining with friends at high-end restaurants and splashing out on luxury experiences. But since most of these activities have been restricted, money that would have been spent has been saved. This leads consumers to upgrade on their enjoyment at home. However, not all of this money was spent on luxury drinks such as champagne. Roughly 114 million adults lost their jobs during the pandemic. This of course resulted in pay cuts and reduced budgets for many. In spite of this, after the major lockdowns had finished and places started opening up again, champagne sales made the biggest alcohol beverage comeback in sales after COVID. During 2020, all champagne that was sold was 17.9% lower than the previous year. This graph also shows us that this product is price elastic because as demand decreased, the champagne's price would have to increase in order to maintain profit. Veuve Clicquot is known for selling its products with a unique gift or merchandise. These can range anywhere from cases, wine bags, signs, cassettes, pencil tin boxes, limited edition artist collaborations, bottle covers, champagne flutes, and many more. These merchandises are sold with the bottles to draw in more customers and for them to continue purchasing their bottles. Many of these sets of merchandise come with other collectible items to ensure consumers come back to purchase more and to differentiate Veuve Clicquot to other champagne brands. As a result of this extra production of goods, the individual price of each bottle has had to increase for enough profit to be made. Each of the gifts that come with the bottles also must keep up with the trends, fashion and tastes at the time. Therefore, the company's social media presence and advertisement is of importance for them to be aware of the trends. Not only do Veuve have their various social media accounts, they also promoted themselves in partnerships with restaurants and hotels to stimulate demand. This includes decking out the locations with the famous clementine yellow colour of the bottle's labels and of course much merchandise. One example of these locations is a Veuve Clicquot bar in the Shangri-La Hotel in Sentosa. Guests can spend a daycation at their private beach enjoying water sports along with the delicious foods and many glasses of champagne. Veuve Clicquot have also opened their very own hotel, Hotel Clicquot. This champagne-themed hotel is located in Byron Bay, New South Wales, Australia. As can be expected, this hotel is cloaked in the signature yellow label colour, complete with an infinity pool and 5 acres of private land for guests to enjoy. The growing of champagne grapes is very particular as it depends on where suppliers grow their grapes in order for the product to be called champagne. For Veuve Clicquot to label their product as champagne instead of sparkling wine, the grapes must be fermented and bottled within 100 miles of the Champagne region in France. Otherwise, if this stage of production is done elsewhere or out of range of the Champagne region, then firms cannot legally categorise their sparkling wine as champagne. This can be problematic for vignerons, the grape growers, as there are limited vineyards for grape growing in the Champagne region. There are only 34,300 hectares of vineyards for all champagne companies to grow their grapes. This means that Veuve Clicquot have only a proportion of this, specifically 393 hectares of space. However, this does not mean that Veuve's vineyards are perfectly inelastic because there is a fixed number of vineyards they can own, although it seems like it. Within the region, many of the fellow wine growers form well-bonded partnerships with independent firms. This is done so that each champagne house supplements its grape supply to produce consistent quality and taste to each of their grapes. After all, this is how Veuve Clicquot maintain a 95% Grand Cru and Premier Cru classification across all of its growing grapevines. These classifications are of the highest ranking in grape growing, as Veuve rely heavily on the lush taste of their grapes in their drink. If there were to be a drought or a natural disaster, then the agricultural goods for the drink would decrease, causing supply to decrease. As the graph shows, the supply curve would move from S1 to S2. Unfortunately, this sudden decrease in supply would cause excess demand. The shortage of supply would not meet the expected bottles to be sold and would result in an increase in price. Sadly, extreme weather has hit the vineyards in the Champagne region last year. This resulted in a 60% drop in natural yields. Through a mixture of hail, frost, above-average heat and persistent rainfall, last year's harvest for grapes was the smallest seen in 40 years. Being promoted as a drink for the millennials, Veuve Clicquot is a widely popular drink all around the world. 19 million bottles are sold annually around the world. But all of this champagne has to be shipped from one place, the Champagne region in France. Because of the laws revolving around the production of champagne in France, it makes transportation worldwide to various countries and restaurants very expensive. Throughout the pandemic, worldwide shipping prioritized essential goods only, such as food, critical medical equipment, any goods needed for safety measures, etc. This meant that shipping became increasingly more expensive and the waitlist for shipping containers space became limited for luxury products. Veuve Clicquot could no longer transport and sell as many cases of champagne as before the pandemic. At this time, demand for luxury goods reduced due to major lockdowns of the pandemic which impacted Veuve sales. To stimulate sales, Veuve Clicquot had to reduce its prices and expect lower profit. This can be seen on the graph where S1 shifts to the left to S2 and D1 shifts inwards to D2. As a result of this, the equilibrium price changes from E1 to E2. Not only do Veuve Clicquot sell their champagne, but they also sometimes sell a selected piece of merchandise with each bottle, as I've mentioned before. These extra added raw materials, along with the corks for the bottles, glass, sticker labels, cardboard boxes for the packaging, etc., increases the cost of production and can limit the amount of bottles supplied. For example, roughly 5 years ago in 2018, Veuve Clicquot was running a promotion selling their very own destination arrow signs with each bottle they sold. These merchandises were part of a set of a few dozen different destinations. These tin add-ons increased the production cost slightly, but not enough for the product as well as the market to become less profitable, as Veuve Clicquot were the only ones in the champagne market to be selling such unique merchandise with every bottle. Therefore, these freebies did not alter the cost of the production massively, so supply wasn't significantly affected, and neither was the price per bottle. In fact, demand would have increased due to habitual behaviour as customers wished to collect the entire merchandise set. On average, one bottle of Veuve Clicquot takes 4 to 6 weeks to ferment and be bottled, and each bottle can last between 4 and 5 years. This means that producers can hold stock of Veuve Clicquot for long periods of time and can easily increase supply easily, making Veuve Clicquot champagne price elastic. Because they can hold stock for long periods of time, then Veuve can hold large amounts of bottles in wine cellars around the world to save the need and expense of transporting to every country all from France. As COVID measurements start to decrease, people return to work and people will receive bonuses and increases to their pay following pay cuts in the pandemic. People will start to spend disposable income on other things like travelling and other luxuries that weren't available during lockdowns. There are also likely to be many celebrations happening with family and friends as a reaction of the world opening up once again. It is only expected that the bubbles will pop open again at many different celebrations and be enjoyed by all in the very rich and toasty ways Veuve Clicquot has marketed themselves. Once this happens, it is expected that the sales in Veuve will increase and the producers will take advantage of this. I expect that within a few years the price of a bottle of Veuve Clicquot champagne will slightly decrease. I think that whilst many people's disposable income will increase, as well as the celebrations and restaurants will open up again, there are many threats to Veuve Clicquot. It needs to maintain its appeal to a younger generation, with lower disposable incomes compared to older generations, specifically its new marketing target, female millennials, I mentioned earlier. It also needs to mitigate the impact of substitute goods, like Prosecco from Italy and other sparkling wines. That said, Veuve Clicquot will always want to be associated with quality and a luxury brand name, which is why I think the price will only decrease to a small extent. In fact, in 2020, a survey was conducted between the two most famous champagne companies, Moet Chandon and Veuve Clicquot. This survey asked restaurants to name the champagne they purchase most. The long-standing battle between these two prestigious champagne companies was resolved when 106 bars said they purchased Veuve Clicquot more. On that basis, Veuve Clicquot can be confident in its popularity and not have to reduce its price too much to maintain its profitability.